much faster than normal. Because in normal air, we will have oxygen and water vapor. But the iron will not rust so quickly. It's a very slow process. However, under some conditions, the rusting will happen much faster. Okay, the first one is high temperature here. Okay, high temperature. So if it is in a cold condition or low temperature, the rusting will be much slower. The second point is about the presence of ions increase the speed of rusting. Just like if you go to the pool side or the river side, you find that the iron objects easily rust, okay, due to the presence of irons. I will explain further later. Okay, I will show you what chemical reactions is rusting. And if you know the chemical equation, you will know why ions can speed up the rusting. The third point is about the presence of acid. Okay, acid pollutants will speed up rusting, just like in industrial areas. Acidic gas evolve, okay, and it will increase the rate of rusting. However, for alkaline environment, you'll find that rusting will proceed slower. Okay, I think I better elaborate more here. So, as iron, okay, to rust is a very complicated process. It involves actually the first step is to make the iron object change it into iron 2 ions. This is the first process for rusting. And of course, if you want to balance the charge, you need to add 2 more electrons here. Okay, it's a little bit difficult for you to understand the theory about this one because it is actually oxidation of iron. Okay, and we will discuss it later. So, why if we have more ions, it increases the speed of rusting? Because after formation of iron 2 ion here, more ions near the iron 2 ion will stabilize the iron. Okay, I explain 1 minute Cantonese here. 如果咧我哋咧生鏽嘅話咧，其實你係將個鐵咧變咗做一個 iron 2嘅 iron 嚟㗎。如果嗰個環境底下有一啲 iron 喺度，譬如你近海即係點啊？有啲 sodium chloride 啦，係咪？嗰啲 negative charge 嘅 iron 咧會 stabilize 咗呢個 formation of iron 2嘅，穩定咗佢。咁所以佢就容易啲變做 iron 2，咁所以佢就會快啲去生鏽。OK， 另外 acidic condition 一樣，酸性嘅環境底下，因為酸咧其實你學過之前 metal reactivity 啦，如果你將啲 metal 加酸，其實係佢會令到佢導致有反應啊嘛。咁所以酸性環境咧，佢係會令到個鐵咧快生鏽。However, for alkaline environment 點解鹼性又會調翻轉咧？因為鹼性佢會出現呢一個情況。個情況咧就係咁樣。嗰個 iron 2咧，佢會同個 alkaline react 啦，就會做一個反應叫做 precipitation。好啦，咁好不幸地咧，呢個反應咧，我哋下一個 section 嘅 note 係講 X and base 學嘅。不過而家我可以話俾你知就係，如果你有鹼性嘅情況，都係鹼性即係 OH 減 hydroxide iron，佢就會將嗰啲 iron 生鏽產生嘅 iron 2啊，將佢沉澱咗變咗做 iron 2 hydroxide。咁樣咧就有啲麻煩嘅，因為咧佢變咗做 solid state 咧，佢就難啲 further 去做 rusting， 因為我講個生鏽其實牽涉咗幾個步驟。第一個步驟就係個 screen 上面所講嘅Fe 變咗做 Fe 二正，但係因為你 Fe 二正其實你要再變咗做生鏽，再 rust 落去咧，佢係再做多幾個步驟嘅。但係如果你 iron 2呢個地方 stop 咗嘅話咧，咁佢就即係難啲生鏽，咁所以咧 alkaline 嘅 environment 咧係會令到佢個 rusting 慢啲嘅。因為佢變咗做一啲movable ions 啊，逢親 ions 咧嗰啲離子咧都係 aqueous state 咁嘛，或者如果你整溶佢就 liquid state 啦，咁但係佢正常地咧有水溶喺水嘅話，佢係 aqueous state 嘅。Okay, now we move on. Okay, about the rusting. Okay, inhibit okay, when it is attached to a more reactive metal like zinc. This reaction, you know it before, is about displacement. Okay, what that means I show you here. If I have an iron object here and I place a metal which is more reactive than iron, like magnesium, just a contact between magnesium and iron, you find that the iron will not rust. Why? Because the reactivity of magnesium is larger or higher than iron. What that means? That means magnesium will try to react with the oxygen or water in order to form magnesium ion rather than iron to react. So if I place a metal more reactive than iron with a connection, you find that the iron will not rust. Okay? And vice versa. What that means? Rusting will be accelerated if the iron now is connected to a less reactive metal. That means, in another situation, the iron object here, if I place one other metal here which has a lower reactivity like copper. However, at this time, copper reactivity is lower than iron, less reactive. That means you will speed up the reaction for iron change to iron to iron. So of course increase the process of rusting. You get my point? It will rust faster. I'm sorry, the sign should not be more reactive. Should be iron more reactive than copper. Now we move to the ways of prevention of rusting. Now we have several theories, okay, in order to prevent the iron from rusting. So the first one is to make a protect the layer, okay, which prevents the iron contact with air or water or both. The process you can have painting, very easy, right? Repaint some coatings, okay, on the iron objects. What that means, just like your tables and chairs, okay, actually are made up of iron. However, we have some paintings on it, the great painting, okay, and you find that your table or your chair will not rust because that painting prevents the iron from contact with oxygen or water, so no rusting occurs. Okay. However, if you find your tables or your chairs with the paintings scratched, and eventually, after several days or several weeks, you find that the point, okay, that no paintings cover, will find some rust here, because at that part, the iron will react with water and oxygen and form rust. Okay. So this is the first one, okay, the first method we use. We have another method like applying a layer of oil or grease. Just like if you have a bicycle, okay, you find that the gears, okay, with a metal part here. We try to use the lubricating oil to cover with it, okay. Two functions. The first one, prevent the iron contact with the oxygen and water. Second, for lubrication between the gears. Okay, so we apply oil or grease. For third one, we have plastic covering. Okay, 包膠 for the iron objects, like the hanger, 衣架. Okay, in fact, it's of course made up of iron, metal inside. But we use a plastic cover, okay, so that the metal will not corrode. And the last one about metal plating. We try to have a metal cover, okay, cover the iron. like a motorbike, okay, motorbike the parts, okay, will have a plating of chromium. 嗰啲電單車咧，嗰啲金屬部分其實都係鐵做嘅本身。咁但係我哋整啲 lead 啊 chromium，OK，、或者sorry nickel 係 lead 啊或者 chromium 唔落咧，整啲金屬落去個面度，咁會點咧？又阻隔咗佢同氧氣同水接觸啦。咁你諗下電單車有高溫㗎嘛，咁好容易生鏽。咁你包一層嘢咧，避免佢接觸氧氣同水咧，咁佢又會避免生鏽啦。OK。So this is the first theory, and of course we have another theory like this one. Very important terms. Please go home and spell it. Okay, it is what we call sacrificial protection. In Chinese, 犧牲性保護 sacrifice 犧牲 sacrificial of course the adjective about that kind of protection. What that means,